Test your morality. You decide to spend the day alone at the mall shopping. After an hour of walking through the mall, you hear a loud bang. For a moment, everyone in the mall stands still, hoping that the sound was nothing concerning, but after another loud bang, everyone starts to scramble, realizing that it was gunshots. As everyone is pushing past each other, you manage to find a small janitor's closet that's unlocked, so you rush inside and lock it behind you. In an instant, you can hear a pin drop, as the mall that was once very loud becomes eerily silent. You close your eyes for a bit, as you hear another bang, followed by loud screams. You can hear the sounds of the gunshots getting closer and closer, but you're very confident that they won't find you in the closet. After a couple more moments of gunshots ringing through the silence, you hear something right outside the janitor's closet. You hesitantly peep through a small opening and see a child on the other side whimpering, turning the doorknob trying to get in. The child's whimpers turn into uncontrollable crying as their desperation to get in the closet becomes worse. As you're about to open the door to bring the child inside, you hear talking from around the corner, and it becomes clear that there are multiple gunmen and their rampage is not over. You can casually hear them talking about shooting anybody on sight and taking as many lives as possible. You peek through the door once again, looking at the child's hopeless expression, knowing that if you did let them in, it will take time for them to stop uncontrollably crying, possibly resulting in your death. Do you open the door and let the child inside, putting your life at risk but doing what it takes to save the child, knowing that the gunmen are only feet away and will take both of your lives if found? Or refuse to open?
All right, everybody, what's going on? So you guys saw that video. Very interesting dilemma that young lady posed. She's essentially asking, if you were in the mall and shots rang out, would you, if you had found shelter and safety for yourself, would you help a young child who was on the other side of the door who potentially could be helped? Now, the dilemma with this is, from a moral standpoint, you hear the voices, you don't know exactly where they're at, but you know that kid is right outside. So the question is, would you bring that kid inside and risk giving up your own safety? Now, you can run this scenario a gajillion times in your head, and we don't have any more factors regarding this scenario. But me personally, I'm going to go ahead and say no. And the reason being is, if I can clearly hear their voice, that means if I knock something over in that closet, they're going to hear me. They're going to come delete me. So that means if I open that door and bring that kid in, they might potentially hear that. They might potentially hear that kid in there crying and whatnot. Who knows? I look at this as an invite to play Russian roulette with the automatic weapon. Sure, the gun could jam, but it's not likely. Right? It's not likely that I'll be able to save that kid. So me personally, no. I'll live to tell the story and I'll testify in court, and that'll be what it is. Here's the deal. I bring this up because, like I said, it's an interesting case in morality. And I don't know how everybody's morality is, but I want to show you guys a video to test your morality, because I have a very interesting take on this, and I just want to know where you guys stand on it. Watch this.
Be some OGs out here acting like they putting a young boy on down to the game. They trying to get him some money. They gonna front him a pack. Whole time they be trying to have sex with him. Whole time they do be having sex. The whole time they be graping them, enforcing themselves on them, and it happens more often than I would even like to believe. But from going state to state, working with children, especially in the hood, being a peer counselor, and things of that nature, I've heard the story way too many times, and I figured I should just speak out on it, because men are not finding it that easy to speak out on. Who really, none of us really want to talk about the abuse and us being preyed on and things of that nature, but I noticed it's even harder for men to do it. I've heard the story from little boys, underage, not adults, and I've heard these stories from grown men as well. Men I've worked with, men I've befriended.
Okay, so you guys saw the video. The woman in that video is saying that there are young men, they are attempting to get into the world of drug dealing. And these guys are under the age of 18, they're not adults, and they're going to the older guys in the game, and these guys are fronting them a pack, which means they're just giving them drugs for free to sell, rather than them guys having to go and buy the drugs and then sell and do it that way. So they're going to these guys who are already in the drug game, and they're getting drugs to sell, and they're getting it for free. But the people are doing this, the guys who are giving them the drugs, they're doing this in exchange for sex. somewhat unbeknownst to the young men. Now here's the deal. She's putting this out as a caution, which is very, very odd. Me personally, I don't care. I don't see this as necessarily a bad thing. Like, okay, I get it. You have older men taking advantage of underage boys. Okay, but here's the problem. These kids are selling poison. They're selling drugs. They are drug dealers. Do we care what happens to drug dealers? Now, I know what you're going to say. Well, they're kids. They're still underage. They can turn their lives around, so on and so forth. And you would be right. Here's the problem. What happens when one of these kids gets deleted? What happens is we say, dang, man, that kid, that's so unfortunate. We just say it's unfortunate. And, we say some typical pop culture stuff. We put their face on a t-shirt and then we move on with our life. And then the next one comes along. That's what we say when they get deleted by a rival drug dealer or gang member. But when they're getting violated by a grown man, all of a sudden we're supposed to have this kind of morality. You can't do that to a minor, but it's okay to delete the minor because all of these minors who are selling drugs, let's say they're 14, 15, 16, if they come up deleted, they are not dying at the hands of other 14 and 15-year-olds all the time. It's grown men out there deleting teenagers. So, but we don't say, oh, he's violating this person. And we don't talk about it the same way that we would talk about it if sex was involved. But all of a sudden, when these would-be drug dealers are getting sexually violated by older men, all of a sudden we have a crisis of conscience. For me, I really don't care. I look at it as let the animals eat each other. Now, once again, you guys are going to say that I have, a broken moral compass. Okay, well, what about this? What happens when those kids go to jail? You go to kiddie prison, 14, 15, 16, 17. What do you think is happening there? The grown men who are violating you, they were probably in adult jail. What do you think happens there? People get violated. You are a criminal of the lowest sort. You are selling poison to people. You're 14, 15, 16, whatever. You're under 18 and you're selling poison. You think that they're just selling drugs to Diddy? You think they're just selling drugs to rich people who are in their right mind and they're in perfect health? No, they're selling to addicts. They're selling to somebody's strung out grandma, somebody's strung out uncle or aunt. They are getting people hooked on these drugs. Those people are going to rob. They're going to steal, kill. They'll do whatever to get their next fix. They're creating addicts. They're creating the scourge of American society. The worst people in American society are these drug users. Think about how hard it is to get off of drugs. So this teenager who, as it turns out, is getting violated, is helping to create this class of homeless people, and they're feeding the prostitutes with the drugs, and they're feeding your son or daughter with the drugs. What happens when your son or daughter gets strung out on drugs? What happens when your daughter gets strung out on the drugs and she sells herself for more drugs? Because that happens too. So when you really put it all in perspective, do we care if this teenager is going to the streets to sell drugs and he's 13, 14, 15, making a horrible decision, but doing it nonetheless? Do we care if this person gets violated? Because they are violating people over a long course of time. People don't just get on drugs and all of a sudden they're a junkie. They make a lot of horrible decisions on their way to the bottom. So if somebody starts selling dope at 14 or 15, they might not wash out of the game until they're 25, 30, or they might go longer than that. So how much damage do they do, right? So my question to you guys is, with all of that in mind, how much do we really care about a teenage criminal, a drug dealer, a person who poisons their community, a person who creates victims that will go into almost perpetuity? How much do we really care about that person getting violated in a very intimate way? Once again, I am not saying that they should get violated. I'm just simply asking, do we care? Like, in all honesty, knowing where that person is going to end up and knowing all the damage that person is going to do. I personally do not care. I think people like that, I have no sympathy no empathy, no remorse or compassion for people who poison others, for people who do things like that. I don't have remorse for drug dealers and killers and people like that. I could have a broken moral compass, which is why I want you guys to weigh in on this. And I want you to get in the comments section and I want you to tell me, am I just a psychopath? Or, am I just overly pragmatic? Let me know how you guys think about this particular subject. I'm not going to beat this into the dirt. I just really want to know what you guys think. I will get back at you on the next one. Peace.